This is Peggy Richards Patty, and this podcast is called Through the Back Loop. It's a knitting podcast, a little bit of sewing now and then, but mostly knitting. And I'd like to welcome you if you're new, and welcome back if you've been a previous viewer. Today is episode 11, and I'm going to talk about Stitches West. I just came back from there, and I just wanted to get on real quick and kind of share with you some of the events and things that I purchased while I was there. Went up last week on Thursday and flew up on Thursday, got checked into the hotel, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you've been to Stitches West, but it's amazing. It's so huge. I'm not sure that I covered all the vendors. I know I said the same thing last year, but it's just incredibly huge. I'm not sure how many vendors are there, but it's a whole convention center worth of yarn and fiber related vendors. It was really amazing and fun. So Thursday, got checked in and all that kind of stuff. And if you were taking a class, you could go to the marketplace and get kind of a preview of all the vendors. And actually, you could purchase things on Thursday night, which we totally did. First on the list was going to the Plucky booth, and I'd never seen Plucky yarn in person, and had heard so much about it. And there's just been a lot of, so many people just are just, lovers of Plucky. So that was the plan. Went straight to Plucky booth, and after a little bit of looking around, I ended up buying a sweater quantity of this colorway right here. It's called Solo, and it is merino with a little bit of mulberry silk. And I purchased a sweater quantity, plan on making let's see if I can say it right, the Veneto sweater. And this will be the main body. And as you can see, it has navy. It has like a navy and some brown and kind of cream colored. I originally bought like a navy, a solid navy for the color work on the bodice, but then I remembered I have some navy, different brand, but in my stash, so I took one back and ended up exchanging it for some sock yarn. This is it's called Feet, and this colorway is called Maryberry. So I plan on making socks out of this. So I was really glad that I remembered that I did have some navy in my stash. So that was purchased that particular day at Plucky, and then I went back a few days later and purchased these two skeins, and I'm going to do a shawl out of these two. This colorway is called, or first of all, the yarn is Primo Fingering. The colorway is Briny Deep, and then I'm going to pair it with this kind of cream color here. Actually, this is called Powdered Sugar, and this is going to be part of this is going to be made into a birthday bash shawl, and I'll put a picture of that up. So that was Thursday night, and we wandered around. Gosh, it was from 5. It was open from 5 until 8, and I think we made it almost. It was not quite 8 o'clock when finally I was just like, oh my God, I'm just overwhelmed and exhausted. So we called it a day, but did a little damage that first night. Then went back on Friday. Friday was a really exciting day. Friday was the most exciting day of all, I would say, because first of all, when we were going downstairs, we were on the elevator, or we were getting ready to get on the elevator, and who did we run into but Gay from the knitting podcast, Gigi Made It, and took a picture with her, and was just like super excited to see her in person, and she was just as kind and warm as you would expect, and so that was super fun. And then let's see what happened on Friday. So we went to the marketplace some more, wandered around. That particular day, I think I purchased another skein of yarn for socks. This one is biscotti, and the colorway is Supernova. And one of the things, I knew I wanted some self-striping yarn for socks when I was there, because I plan on doing I think it's called Heel Toe Do-Si-Do by the Crazy Sock Lady. And this was kind of cool because they had pictures on their display, so you could kind of see how it was knit up. So anyway, that day, that was my first purchase that particular day, and look forward to that. Let's see what else on Friday. I had a class from 2 to 5 that afternoon with Franklin Habit, and the name of the class was Proportions, and it was really cool. Number one, he's a fabulous entertainer and teacher because he's super funny and has lots of stories, and he's just a wealth of knowledge. But basically, it was things that maybe were proportions for knitting and knitting products, and he based a lot of it on historical knitting back when many people were illiterate and just had, they were knitters, but the way they taught each other was just through human to human contact. There weren't patterns written necessarily. And so there were a lot of proportions that were just kind of general knowledge that are really great for now to just kind of help you, think about things and double check things. One of the things was that the measurement of your palm is basically, if you put the heel of the palm on your ear and you go like this, that's where the tip of your fingers is where you would start making the decreases on a hat. And little things like that. Like he talked about sock patterns. Well, he talked about hat patterns, sweaters, and socks for the most part, but just all kinds of neat little things. Like, for example, this sock right here, this part of the sock, let's see, what do you call that? You call that the heel flap, before the heel flap, or this part. I guess this is called the heel flap. But anyway, that should actually be a square. And as you can see on these socks, which these were the socks that I was working on when I went to Stitches, and I got a little impatient, I guess, and that's not nearly long enough, because that would not be a square. That's more like a rectangle. And sure enough, when I put these on, my shoe hits more like right here, which isn't great, because then that causes the wear and tear on the pattern of the sock rather than on this denser fabric. So, it won't be the end of the world, because it's not like I wear this, I have several pairs of socks and I rotate them, so it probably won't wear out that fast. But see, if I already had that knowledge, I would have known that before I started the heel, I'm trying to fold it so you can see, that should have been more like a square shape rather than a rectangle. So it was just tons of things like that. And he had us take our measurements and just talk in general terms about the percentages of your sleeves and just all kinds of different things. And I figured out that from the tip of my finger to the first little crease there, that's 1 inch. And that's kind of meaningful information. If I'm on a plane or something and I don't have a measuring tape and I'm knitting, I could just measure my knitting with that way. It was just all kinds of just common sense proportions. So that was really good. I had a little malfunction with the camera, but I think we're back in business. So continuing on with Friday, Friday night, I went to the fashion show and it was wonderful. I'm going to put a bunch of footage more at the end of this podcast, and I took some video and different things like that. But it was well attended, and I think gosh, I can't remember. It was something like 65 different garments were shown in the fashion show, and it was in a huge auditorium, and I had a great seat. I actually went by myself, and so I just walked in and walked in, and I got a seat like about 5 rows up. So I had this great seat, super fun. And what I did, I had my little program, and if there were things that I really, really loved, I would circle it. And then I went back the next day and looked at some of the things in the booths. And it was just so much better to see them, the garments, on a human being, moving and walking around rather than just on a mannequin or on a hanger. So that was really fun. The one garment that I did purchase the things for is it was put on by Blueprint, which used to be Craftsy, and they had a kit. And oh gosh, I haven't written it down, but they had a kit. I'll find it and I'll put it down below here. But it was one of my favorite garments in the fashion show. And then when I went back the next day and looked on Saturday and looked in their booth, they had it on display, and I got to try it on, and it was amazing. I mean, I know Craftsy or Blueprint, they have a lot of sales, and their yarn is kind of not real expensive. So, and I knew that, but since I was already a member, you got this kit for half off, so it was $26. So, and I just couldn't pass that up. But I will put a picture up of the wrap, and also when I edit this. So anyway, went to the fashion show, then came back and connected up again with Trish and Patty, and we had some wine and just sat in the lobby of the hotel. And probably my very favorite part of events like this is just watching, everybody walking by with their sweaters, and it's just amazing what people come up with. And a lot of the patterns I recognize, and then the ones that I don't, you talk to people about what they're wearing, and many times there are things that people have designed. They've created it themselves, and so that's always really fascinating too. So anyway, Friday was a super exciting day. Oh, I forgot to say though, that morning earlier, I went downstairs a little earlier than Trish did, because I'm the morning person, and I ended up meeting Christina from the Chelsea Pearls podcast, and I'm going to put pictures up of that too. But she was just great. I actually had talked to her the year before, last year, but we really had a chance to talk, and it was super fun. And then pretty soon here comes Tracy from the Grocery Girls. So it was just like, knitting rock stars all over, which I'm going to do a little thing on that, because I took a bunch of pictures of everybody. But the whole day on Friday started off with, meeting Gigi, and then it ended that night with the fashion show. And so Friday was just really a super fun day. Let's see, on Saturday, it looks like I spent the first bit of the day back in the marketplace, purchasing more things. One of the things I got, this one, I have a friend, I bought this for a friend, but this was at Brooklyn Haberdashery, and I had noticed it the day before and went back, and it's just a really cute little felted zippered pouch, and it has their little tag inside, and it's just really well made. And I have a really good friend, Sarah, that I'm going to send this to. She's going through a hard time right now, and she's a knitter and a quilter, and I just wanted to send her something because I know life is not the easiest for her at the moment. But anyway, so I went and purchased that. One of the other purchases I made was this. It's from who makes this? Lolo Body Care, and this was their face pudding. And I don't know if it's because I had been in the hotel for a couple of days. By that point, my skin was just, the hotel air was like so dry, but oh my gosh, this stuff is so moisturizing. I couldn't resist, so I bought that. I also bought my husband a pottery mug, and I don't have it with me at the moment. It's in the dishwasher. And what else did I buy? I ended up buying this candle from La Merce's booth, and I wanted to buy her yarn for the for my birthday bash shawl, but it didn't have enough yardage, so I ended up buying, this was in her booth, Wax and Wool, and I think it's a vendor that was just sharing her booth with her. The scent is called California, and it smells amazing. Can't wait to light it. So, yeah, did a little more damage. Then I had a workshop. They had some workshops throughout the day, and they were just 1 hour long. And so I signed up for double knitting, and in just 1 hour's time, this is just how far I got. This is going to be a coaster with a heart shape on it, and you can see the very beginning of the bottom of the heart there. And then on this side, the heart will be green. But I was always curious about double knitting. It makes a really thick, squishy fabric, and you end up knitting both rows, the front and the back, at the same time. That's kind of hard to explain, but it's not hard. It's just, it's just something different. So that was like a little 1 hour workshop that I took midday. And then went back to the marketplace. I ended up running into another couple of cool ladies, and I watched their podcast too. Jeanette and Joan from their podcast is called Knit One, Sip Two, and they always have like a little drink or something that's, during their podcast. So I'm going to show, I don't know if I got a picture of them, but I'm going to, in a few minutes here, I'm going to list all the famous people that I met. And it was fun because during the podcaster meetup on Saturday afternoon, I hooked up with them again, and Trish and Patty came, and we sat and just chatted with them for, a couple hours probably. It was super fun. They were there with Jeanette's niece and sister, and so we hung out, and it was super fun. And I highly recommend their podcast too. They're quite the knitters. Let's see, what other damage did I do? I purchased this small little project bag. This is like for socks, but I love it. This was at the Monarch booth, and I had to get it since it had California on it. And this holds my knitting project. I'm actually on sock number 2. Here's the first one. I did finish it. Basically, I finished it right when I got home from stitches. I was just had barely any of the toe left at Kitchener. But this was my project I worked on during my time at Stitches, and it is called, I've mentioned it before, it's called the Waffle Sock, I think. Yeah, Waffle Rib Socks by Carolyn Renew. And it was interesting. It was top-down construction, and it calls for 73 stitches when you cast on, which is way more than I normally cast on. I normally do like 64. And even though this waffle does take up some space, I ended up having to totally change it. And because this part of the foot was going, this part right here would be way too big for me. And so I modified it, but going clear down to like, I think I went down to 68 stitches and just kind of had to modify it so to fit me. But anyway, I did finish one sock, so it's a hoe. It's a half finished object, and then I've got this much more to go on the second one. So that was my little project that I worked on during stitches, and I love this little bag. It also has a little built-in notions compartment there, and I can't remember if I said that or not, but it was at the Monarch booth, and wow, I love that shop. They just had so many cool designs and samples, and could have done even more damage than I actually did. Let's see, I'm going to move into talking about knitting celebrities. I've already mentioned a lot of them, but I'm just going to put in a little section here, some of the pictures of them, and that was also one of my very favorite parts, besides, just, all the people and just, I don't know, just, they're just rock stars to me. I've watched all these knitting podcasts and then just chatting with them and just, they're so kind. Every single one of them was just so nice. I told you about meeting Christina and her mom. Her mom was with her and another person from their shop, and just sweet, kind people that love all the same things we love. I did mention Jeanette and Joan from Knit One, Sip Two. I talked about Tracy from the Grocery Girls. I also got to meet Melissa and Lisa from Espace Tricot, and Denise Byron. She's a designer that's got a lot of really beautiful designs and is kind of newer on the knitting scene. So I'm going to do a little segment here with showing you those pictures. And then I do. I think I can retrieve a picture. The last one I met was Tommy from Squirrel Pie podcast. So I'm going to do a little segment here with them, and I will finish up with the footage from the fashion show. So that's all I really have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Maybe one last thing I'll tell you before we go, because I forgot to, is what I'm wearing. It's not new. Both of these items are knitted items that I've made in the past but wear constantly. This pullover is the Patu pullover by Courtney Spainhauer, and it is made out of linen from Lindy Chain linen from Knit Picks, and wear it all the time here in San Diego, especially today. It's crazy warm here today. It's like 20 degrees warmer than it should be. It's like 82 outside. It should be 62. So I wore linen today. And then this cardigan is the Hamlin Peak Cardi by Pam Allen. And these are like, especially the Cardi, gosh, I made this 3 years ago. And so linen's like one of my most favorite fibers on earth. So these get a lot of use. Anyway, start to say goodbye. I'm going to turn you on over to the footage of all the knitting celebrities, and then also to the fashion show. But thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.